Well, today at 2 o'clock I met with Mike Sanford and let him know that he would not return as our head football coach. Then met with our staff at 3:30 and met with our players at 4. And obviously these are the least enjoyable days in sports. A very hard day. I think the world of Mike as an individual. Just a great person, a great family man. Gave our program everything he had. Was very dedicated to WKU football from day one. Very passionate about being a hilltopper, and did everything he could on behalf of our program. But at this point, after 2 years, I just felt we were in a position that we had to go in a different direction.
Why didn't this work?
Well, I don't know that there was really any one thing or any one moment. To me, it's just the accumulation of where we are right now. In some respects, it started last year. I mean, I think that at the bowl game, that was a really disappointing performance. I mean, we really, as a team, I felt like we lacked energy. I felt like Georgia State honestly wanted the game more than we did. And that was disappointing because we had a lot at stake. We won a bowl game 3 straight years. There were only 9 programs in the country that had done that, and that was a historical game. And so to come out and play like that was disappointing. And then this year, certainly the main game, I think losing that was really disappointing. And we had a long stretch in that game where we jumped out to a 21-0 lead, I believe it was, and then we had a long stretch where we didn't score at all. Coming out of the bye week, to go to Charlotte and probably play one of our poor games of the year. Like I said, coming off of a bye. So it was really just an accumulation of things, not really any one thing. And then honestly, the UTEP game, which was a great night for our seniors from the standpoint of getting a resounding win. Really happy for those guys to win their final home game, but at the same time, really hurt for them because of the complete lack of energy we had in the stadium that night from a crowd standpoint. Their final talker walk, we might have had 100 people there, and that can't be. Unfortunately, that's what we've come to, and it was one of the reasons why I just feel like we've got to go in a different direction.
Leading up to this, what were the conversations like with Coach Sanford?
Well, Mike's an outstanding person to work with. Very open, very transparent, and we talk all the time. We formally meet on a weekly basis. We talk all the time, and I think Mike's a great coach. I mean, I really do. It didn't work out here. I think that's clear. But I feel like he has a bright future. I mean, I think that there'll be a day when he's head coach again and he's successful. It's weird in athletics. George Seifert won 2 Super Bowls with the San Francisco 49ers. He got fired by Cornell. You would think that somebody who won 2 Super Bowls would be successful in the Ivy League, but he wasn't. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. Sometimes it's fit, sometimes it's other things, sometimes it just doesn't work out. But because it doesn't work out one place doesn't mean it won't in another. But we had just gotten to a point that I just felt, again, we needed to change. And specifically, it was a great win yesterday. And I applaud everybody with our programs, especially our players and our coaches, to go down there and win at Louisiana Tech. I mean, in 2014 and in 2016, we had teams that won bowl games that did not win down there. So that was great to go down there and win. But I think it's important, though, the best evaluations are the ones that encompass the most information, and you can't let 3 hours on the final Saturday of the season overshadow everything else. And going into that game, there's a very sophisticated computer ranking formula that ranks every team in the country. It's what the BCS used to use when they determined the national championship matchup. And going into the Louisiana Tech game, we were 129 out of 130. The only school worse than us was UTEP. So, that's just where we were from an overall body of work standpoint. And, that's just not obviously where we can stay.
What went into the decision to let him finish out the year?
Well, I had some people, not officially with Western Kentucky University, fans and other people, during the course of the season, ask if we were going to make a move. And I never thought about that for 1 second during the season. To me, that would be, in our situation, that would be quitting on him and on our players. And just felt like let's finish this thing out. I was hoping we would get a winning streak going, and I know we won the final two, but I was hoping that things would click. We came close earlier in the season, but it just never came around. And again, I think the thing that I point out is the evaluations on the overall body of work, and the 2 years that Mike was our head coach. The winning percentage over those 2 years is the worst by any Western Kentucky head coach since 1922. And you look at where we have been as a program and where we are now, we need to get back to where we were. And I think that what Mike did do here is I think he recruited very well. We have a good young nucleus of players. I really do believe that. But I really felt that for us to get back to where we needed to get to, it would require new leadership at the top.
What kind of reactions did you get from the players today?
Well, it's been, they were very professional and very respectful, as they always are. I think they're really good kids. I think you saw that the last 2 weeks. I think there's a lot of programs in the country, if they're 1-9 and essentially playing for nothing other than that game, would have chucked it. I mean, go back and check the scores from yesterday. There's some very lopsided scores in games where I think teams didn't bring it, but our kids brought it, and that's because they're great people and they take pride in wearing our uniform, and I'm happy for them that they could do that. But at the same token, I just hate it for them that we had the overall season that we did, because I think we're certainly better than 3-9.
The fact that you had to make a tough decision like this, making it after 2 seasons, does that correlate with your level of concern where things were headed?
Well, I'm not proud of that. I mean, I don't think 2 years is really a fair evaluation in most cases, but I know I'm being redundant here, but I just think when you see the lack of energy we have in our program right now from the outside, and the fact that we were 129th in the country out of 130 going into the final game of the year, I just feel like we've gotten to a point where to continue down that road wasn't the answer. That the answer was having somebody else in here at the top and turn this around and get it going in the right direction. Well, there were 2 family members on the staff, and I think it puts them in an incredibly awkward situation. It would me, if my son got let go and I was asked to still come in and work, that would be unfair for anybody. So it wasn't, for anything other than just to remove them from a really awkward situation, very similar to what the University of Louisville did. Well, I mean, it's certainly a costly move. I think it's costly to continue in the direction we're going as well. The good thing is, while we're not happy about this outcome, we're really 3-1 in terms of these, because we've been on the plus side 3 other times. When Bobby Petrino, Jeff Brom, and Michelle Hurd left here, we got buyouts, hefty ones in the cases of coaches Petrino and Brom. So with that money, we invested some of that back into our programs, but we put some of it away just in case there would come a day like today, so that we would to have that if we needed it, and that's where it will come from.
What's the next step at this point?
Well, certainly to hire the next football coach, and people always ask about the timing and everything else. I mean, really, it comes down to, and a lot of this is obvious, but we need to hire an excellent coach, but we need to hire somebody that's a good fit, and we need to hire somebody that brings energy and really an infusion, I think, of an excitement, to our program and to our players.
Todd, your track record of hiring head coaches since you've been AD, pretty doggone good. This one, I don't want to put words in your mouth as a way of saying that this hire did not work. As an athletic director, how hard has that been, that here you are today after 2 seasons, letting go someone that you obviously 2 years ago wanted?
Really hard, and that's my responsibility. It's my responsibility that we are here right now, and it's my responsibility to get us going back in the direction that we have been at. Like I said, 2 years is a short time frame, but I think that ultimately you have to do what's right by your players, and we had reached the conclusion, and I had reached the conclusion that we weren't going to turn this around. There's no guarantees in life. I mean, there's a scenario out there where we would have, and Mike certainly believes we would have, and I understand and I respect that. But deep down, I just had real reservations about the fact that we would, and so feeling that way, I just think it's incredibly unfair to our players to put them in go through an entire off season and go into another season if you really don't feel like it's going to turn around.
We were kind of under the impression the last two games had a lot of bearing on the decision, obviously, winning both of those. How did those two games affect the thought process, and how did you kind of end up making the decision, based around those results?
Well, sir, I mean, we're proud of the fact we won the last two games, and I think, again, all the credit to our players and our coaches for hanging in there and fighting to the finish, and certainly that helped. I mean, it really did. Now, UTEP they've had a tough season as well, but Louisiana Tech was a good win. But I just think that you have to be careful making a snap judgment on a limited sample size and letting emotion play into it. And I just think to let those two games, particularly the Louisiana Tech game, overshadow what I just referenced as the body of work. I mean, when an independent ranking service has you 129 out of 30, that's obviously not very good. And so I think to let 3 hours on a Saturday, which were great, it was a great 3 hours in Ruston, Louisiana, but to let 3 hours on a Saturday overshadow everything up to that point would not have been the right move.
Todd, your opening statement, you mentioned when you met with Mike, but just on a personal level, just seeing his reaction, how would you describe his reaction when you had to inform him? It was obviously a very tough decision.
Well, I mean, obviously that's a private conversation, but that went really like every meeting with Mike Sanford goes. He's a very professional individual. He's a class act. He grew up in the business. He's the son of a coach, and I was told one day, and boy did this turn out to be accurate. It was when I was actually with the Cleveland Browns, and I had a friend of mine tell me that if you're in this long enough, you will walk on both sides of the road. And it's really true. I mean, you really will. And many times when you walk on the wrong side of the road, it's not necessarily 100% your fault. Sometimes you're the victim of circumstances that you really don't control. But that's the reality of the world we're in, particularly the reality of athletics. And I think we all understand that. Well, I think that they too know the reality of this. I mean, one aspect of our program that hopefully changes, Mike was the fourth head coach we had in 6 years. And now we'll have another head coach. And change has been a constant in our program. Now, until now, the change had been a result of winning. But nevertheless, change had been a constant of this program. I think it's a constant in collegiate athletics. It's a constant in professional athletics. So I think they understand that. I think the important thing is that we make the right hire, and we will. And I think ultimately they'll feel good about that.
In the past, you haven't used search firms. I assume you're going to do this one you're on your own, I guess, the athletic department again.
That's what we've always done in the past. And, I think it depends on who you talk to. I mean, a search firm can be very helpful in the vetting of people. If it's somebody that you don't have a personal history with or a background with, it is helpful, especially in this day and age. But so far we've not used a search firm.
Do you regret the hire of Mike Sanford?
No, I don't. I mean, I really don't. I regret the outcome, and I feel bad that we're here, but if you look at Mike and you look at his template when he was hired, it was very similar to that of Willie Taggart and Jeff Brom. And as a matter of fact, if you look at his years of FBS coaching experience and the number of major bowl games that he had coached in, it was actually more than the two of them. So I felt like he fit the mold of other coaches that had been really successful here in that he was on an upward trajectory, and that we would get him on the way up, and we would keep going up. It just didn't work out. But I believe it will for him again in the future. I really do. And, I believe that we'll have a better future as well.
You already have a list in mind of coaches you'd like to pursue, or is that something you haven't been able to give too much thought to?
Well, I think honestly, every athletic director in the country has a short list. You have to, because you never know when something may happen and you have to move. So that's something we're always prepared for.
Todd, I only ask this because you're active on social media. I'm not asking if social media played a role in what fans were thinking, but were you alarmed by the negativity and aware of it from the fans in regards to Mike? And I'm not asking if it played a role, but did that play a factor in just your cause of concern with, you mentioned the lack of enthusiasm during the walk, the topper walk. Was there any kind of a role in regards to that?
Well, I wouldn't say, social media in particular, but certainly, I mean, we have lost fans, and we have to get them back. And the best way to get them back is to play an exciting brand of football and win games, and that's what our objective is. Now, we did that before. We led the nation in scoring, and we had 13,000 people at our conference championship game. And so, maybe we all, because that seemed to happen so easily and happen so fast, I mean, maybe we all took it for granted, a little bit. And our intention is to get back to that type of place again. And perhaps when we get back to it, it will mean more, because unfortunately we've slumped down. And we do our part. I mean, it's certainly our responsibility. It's my responsibility, our responsibility to make the right hire here, get the right person in place, and develop a great football program. But hopefully, when we get back to that part again, the fans come back better than they did the last time we were there. And because I think that we by no means as a program have we reached a ceiling in terms of what the program can achieve. Although 2015-16, I think arguably were the two best years in the history of our program, but that doesn't mean we don't aspire to do that again. But certainly there's room for fan growth. I mean, there was back then even. So there's room for improvement everywhere.
A lot of people were under the assumption that he was told that if he won the last two games that he would remain head coach. Was there any truth to that? And if so, what changed?
No, I mean, everything, and this is not just with football. I mean, this is with every sport that we have. It's always based on an evaluation at the end of the season. I mean, I don't think you can, it's not really fair. I mean, it doesn't make sense to put so much onto, in most cases, now, there's always exceptions across the country, but I think in most cases, to put too much on any one game or any 1 week, that's a limited sample size. Now, I mean, sometimes it bears more weight than other times, but I do think, the fairest evaluations for every sport are ones that take in account the entire season.
Coach? Thanks.
All right, thank you.